you're watching this video right now in the fall time, as this video is releasing kind of late fall, early winter, most of you guys in the country, if you live in the north, your lakes are starting to freeze, which means that these open water tips aren't necessarily applicable to you. But the rest of us in the country, we are being hit by cold front after cold front after cold front, which is kind of signifying that winter is coming. And while crankbaits always work, practically for me, at least in Texas, at all times of the year, I found that my favorite crankbait, the square bill, which is great for the early fall conditions when the water is dropping from anywhere from 80 to 60, 65 degrees. Square bill works best in that scenario. But I found that if I want to continue to catch fish on a crankbait later on in the fall going into the winter, I have to pull out a different style of crankbait, and that is called a flat-sided crankbait. Now you may ask, why do you choose to throw a flat-sided crankbait? What's the difference between that and a square bill or any other different style? And the reason is because the flat side of the crankbait itself does not allow the bait to push, one, as much water, and two, has a completely different action. If you were to tie two different crankbaits on, a square bill and a flat-sided square bill, you'll notice that the square bill crankbait has more of a side-to-side tail wobble that pushes a lot of water and oftentimes can hunt, which means go left and right throughout the water column. But a flat-sided crankbait oftentimes still has that backward shimmy of the bait, but has a little bit more of a roll as well. Now, of course, color choice depends wholly on the clarity of water that you are fishing in and the forage that you are trying to represent with the crankbait, but I love a good chartreuse shad. I feel like this gets the job done in tons of scenarios around the country, especially here in East and Central Texas when our water is not always the clearest, especially in the fall when we have so many storms and cold fronts running through, tons of wind that basically muddies up the water. I found this color here, basically a chartreuse blueback, is an incredible color for catching lots of bass. And the gear that I like to throw a flat-sided crankbait on basically falls within the same realm as any other square bill crankbait, and that is a 7-foot medium action square bill crankbait rod with any sort of crankbait reel. This is the Lew's BB1 Pro. I love this reel. And then oftentimes when the water gets cold, I will drop down to even 10-pound test fluorocarbon. And the reasoning for that is because I'm rarely throwing this bait over any sort of heavy cover. Now, if you have a situation where you're trying to throw it over wood or jagged rocks or grass, I would suggest going up to 12, 15, even 20-pound fluorocarbon. But I found that in a lot of the lakes around here, the fish are not going to be squeezed as tightly to the cover as they were in the early fall. They're going to be more separated chasing around bait fish. And so that means that I don't have to cast directly to a stump. I can cast to a wide open stretch of bank that might have some rocks on it. And that is why I can get away with 10-pound line. So I hope this video taught you guys something about how to fish flat-sided crankbaits in the fall and why you should choose those over a traditional square bill crankbait. Now, of course, if you guys want to see any different tips, make sure you guys leave them down in the comment section below for this Lucky Tackle Box series. And we'll see you guys in the next episode of Outside the Box.